just getting started here. We'll just let folks trickle in. Um, but yeah, I figure I'm just gonna do things a little different today. With a proper like warm up process. So we'll see how it goes. Um, what I usually like to do with my warm ups is do a bunch of lines and boxes, and then a small like um illustration just to warm up the good old muscles. I imagine today's stream is going to be a little bit quieter. I do have to figure out how to do the whole, I guess, Spotify playlist thing that some streamers are doing. That way there's some more variety. Um, for, but for now, it's going to be pretty much the same. Govette Syndrome song on loop. So feel free to bring your own music. Yeah, it's been pretty interesting outside. Um, it's so I live here in the States, and we're one of the many states there along the whole crazy winter storm pathway. So it's like this, and I think the Finger Lakes are like right here, and then we got the coast and Florida all the way over here, and Texas. But yeah, this is just kind of terrifying. The whole crazy cool weather that's going on, and I stepped outside to get my mail, and it was blowing hard out there. But we also had these little tiny, um, little tiny pebble-sized hail that was coming down as well. It was like the Dippin' Dots. You remember those? I bet they're still around, but like the little frozen ice cream with the dots all over. Came in all sorts of flavors. Um, it, cookie and cream was my favorite out of those. But yeah, it also reminds me of when I went to the state fair, um, when I was a little kid, and I just got this huge, I mean, huge little stuff, uh, huge little stuffed tiger. There's a little pinwheel hat here, and I mean, this guy was huge, like that huge. Just big old eyes, and I swear that they must have been like probably a good 5 or 6 feet tall. And but anyway, what's the point of this? The the hail outside just reminded me of when I got back home after that trip. Th- That guy was leaking styrofoam pellets everywhere. We were finding it for months. This big old piles of styrofoam pellets everywhere. It was a tiger, yeah. Um, unfortunately, once my mom found out about why all of those pellets were showing up, she demanded that I get rid of it, and we had to get rid of it the only way we knew how. And this is absolutely terrible, but she took us out to the Petco. Yeah, the Petco, and we just took it over to the back of a building. They This was before there were a lot of security cameras, so they really didn't even notice us. But we had to dump the guy in the big old dumpster they had back there. And I'm just thinking, all these years now is just incredibly morbid. I was a little chungus back then too, as well. Just like the kid from Up. I'm still a little chungus these days, but it's getting better. I'll tell you. All right, I think I got warmed up enough here, just on the basics. So let's start with the actual food warm up. And I got a magazine over here. One of the things that I've been doing lately is signing up for magazine subscriptions. And what I have here is Food and Wine. Pretty good magazine. Got some recipes in it, but I'm more interested in how they present the food. So what I got here is one of their older issues, and it is a loaded baked potato with smoked chicken on it. So just gonna take a little bit of creative liberties here, and one of the things I like to do this year as far as these exercises is to get a little bit better at like picking out colors, because right now I do rely a lot on doing the color picking from reference photos. But if you want to go with the stylized food approach, yeah, you can't really be doing that all the time. It does save time, yes, but you never know when you want to take a creative direction on something. See, we got a little bit of chicken coming out the side here. And we got the nice see what we got here is it says sour cream and sharp yellow cheddar. So just kind of playing it by eye here. Hope y'all day have been doing well. Um, I am not very good with English today. Technically speaking, English is like my third language. They, I'm, I'm born deaf, and so I had to learn sign language and all of that before I could actually learn spoken English. And so it's a little challenge sometimes wording things. Another thing I want to do this year, as far as the food illustration go, is get better at implying texture. Um, because yeah, you could do a ton with texture, but by referencing it directly, but it also becomes a limitation in a way, because if you're constantly referencing the texture from photos, you don't really get to learn how to extend it yourself. And that's what I plan to do with some of the design work that I'm doing for like VTubers and um, anime and shows. There's not a food-in assistance generally that has already been done to draw some of the ideas here. And so we kind of have to understand how the how things work, how things are layered. Like over here in this section, we got the chicken, and then we got the sour cream and cheddar layering on top of each other. It gets hard to swap things out if you're not familiar with how things would actually lay down and drape over, so you can separate it in your mind. Righty. I think that's a pretty good starting point there. Let's see. For the potato skin, we need kind of a brownish. Throw this on a separate layer. I don't quite like that brown. There we go. That's a little bit better. Always the gaps. then you gotta get something a little bit darker. And something I've heard in general, what you don't want to do when you're drawing, is to constantly stay at the same range as far as like hue and saturation. When you're changing your colors, you want to change both of them at the same time, unless you're making a very deliberate decision not to, because nothing is just like purely up and down in nature. There's always a little bit of a drift. So that's what I'm trying to do here with the light color variations. And I got a opacity pen here. Just give me a little bit of blending. And what's nice about this one is there's a lot of seasoning. So let's dab those on as well. And I'm gonna use a texture pen for this. Just a little bit of a rougher edge to it. I'm also gonna start to lower the sketch layer. I've been kind of enjoying this sort of lineless style. This makes it feel less of a ordeal to get what you want, and not everything in nature is straight lines as well. Add in a little bit of darker texture here. A little bit of crinkling in the skin. I do like it when the skin on the baked potato gets a little bit crispy. Alrighty, and then the chicken. That looks like a lightly yellowish, orangish. That looks about right. Yeah, I'm just doing these all on one layer. Again, just for a little bit of organic feeling to it. Plus, it makes the whole blending work later easier. And this one had a nice bit of exposed chicken right over here. And we also had some bell peppers in there. Add some color. And a little bit of the whiter color for the underlying map. And that is way too grayish. Probably a little more yellow into it. Then for the shadow on that, just a bit of orange. Mm. And as always, if you have any questions during the stream, you are more than welcome to ask, and I'll answer them as I see them. Do away with the sketch layer now. The cream was just a slight pink. Add a little bit of white, mellow it out a little bit. A little bit of darker chicken skin. And we had some chunks down towards the bottom. And they kind of look like little bits of the potato that had been lit up when you started scooping out the middle. And let's darken this. Mm-hmm. And then we had some I'm guessing cilantro or parsley on the top. Gotta get some dark colors in there as well. And some brighter, higher saturation colors as well. and you might notice that I tend not to zoom in too much, and I just think that's a good habit in general, is to try to keep everything at a pretty reasonable scale. That way you're not obsessing over every little detail at the expense of the overall picture, because that used to be a big problem for myself when I was younger. I I would just be pouring over like 1 little inch on a piece that, well, that 1 inch is probably not gonna get noticed very much, unfortunately. So I just taking it easier on myself to let myself work at a higher elevation, so to speak. And then when I'm working on like more serious pieces, I might allow myself to zoom in more. You know what this needs? It needs hot sauce. It's not in the picture here, but oh boy, do I love my hot sauce. Try to get the right color in my mind here. Just a little bit more orangey. I love buffalo hot sauce in particular, or garlic habanero. A little drip here. A little drip off the side here. So I think that's looking alright. Maybe just a little bit more visual texture, so to speak, to break things up. Might be a little bit too. And as always, we need a little bit of highlight. Make it nice and juicy. And what I'm gonna do here is, it might be a little bit too light, so to speak. So just gotta make it a little more potato-y. Yeah. A little more shadow. A little bit of darkened outline here. All right, that's looking pretty good. What do you guys think? Alrighty, that should do it for the warm up. So what I had in mind for today is I have a show. It's a little craft fair that's coming up on February 28th. So it's a little bit late for Valentine's Day type of thing. But it is starting to get into spring. So I wanted to try out making a bunch of original stuff and just to make it easier on myself to start out, because it's been a while since I drew anything with the winter break and all. Um, what I'm gonna do is I have a button pin maker, two of them actually, and I'm gonna make some stuff. So just jot down my notes here. And I got a round pin. So this is just your pretty bog standard. I think it's 2.25 inch button pin. And then I also have one that's a square maker. So it could be used as a fridge magnet or as a regular pin. But this one is about 2 inches. Get some water here. And I thought it would be really fun to do like food themed pins. So the basic idea is like I would have these pins made up and look like some kind of snack. So for example, a cookie here, and it's, let's say it's chocolate dipped, for example. So this would be the design that's on the pin itself. And then what would really sell the idea is the packaging that I'm putting them in. And I apologize if you're hearing any of my background there. Like I mentioned, we got this major snowstorm, and part of what comes with that is quite a bit of wind. So yeah, just like clear plastic wrapping around it. And I am gonna get rid of this guy right here. Yeah, you don't come into my chat trying to spam stuff. But the kicker on this is we take this and then we add a couple more, because one of the things that I really want to do more of this year is self-serve displays. Um, because I have a ton of stuff that honestly slows things down a lot when it comes to the vending process, especially my batch ribbons, because like the build a burger set is 14 ribbons, and you can make any combination of ribbons to build that burger. Um, but you can't exactly like pre-package that, and so I tried out a self-serve display, which was just a rack, pretty standard wooden display rack like this, and then I would put the ribbons in here so people could pull the ribbons out as they wanted. That kind of worked. The biggest issue with this particular approach is there are basically print size or sticker sheet size at the appropriate displaying angle, so you could only get 2, maybe 3, more like 2 ribbons side by side per tier. And that's just not efficient whatsoever. So it was like this. I'm trying out something. They're index cards, index card holders, kind of like the ones that you would see at the library. Like these, and they got a little sticky back into them. So I'm just gonna put the ribbons in them like this. So that way you can still see the sign on them, but then be able to pull straight out. It'll be just like this. So that way it gets a lot easier to self-serve for a display like that. And I thought about doing it like vertical, like this. But that might be a challenge. So I'm gonna try to do this kind of layout here on all of the tiers, because I have storage grids here as well. That way it's just a little bit more visible, more accessible. So with these guys, I got these I guess they're called like wooden jewelry trays or something like that, but they just basically look like this. Got little shallow trays on them. Like so. And I think the kind that I got had like 4 of them to a column. But the idea here is because of how shallow these are, these would be perfect for stacking these guys up. So it'll be like this. That'll be kind of cute, I think. Can't wait to see it in action. But yeah, that's the idea that I'm going for today with this session. And we're already doing amazing, 40 minutes in. Let's get started here. So part of what I'm doing, and this was an idea that came to me, and this was over last week, but I wanted to do essentially a journey set of like bookmarks, and each of those would have associated food or drink item with them. And so it could be um like a cake, could be like a bread, biscuit, stew, etc. But the idea is that if you combine all of the bookmarks together, like so, it would create kind of a visual journey, and that's where the thumbnail for the video comes from today. So I did this in preparation. I wanted to get a nicer illustration for the YouTube VOD that'll be going up probably Friday. But as you can see, we got the individual bookmarks. We got a illustration at the top of the story, and then the food across the bottom, and then it'll be pretty detailed food on each of them, because there'll be made into recipe cards, into fridge magnets, stickers, and such. And I find it helpful to have a guiding principle, so to speak, for that. So I'm doing 2 sets of these. And there'll be 9 items in each. Items. And wait a minute, each? I'm talking about 2 separate journeys. So one is a specific theme, the other has a different theme. And I thought it would be nice to do something cool and refreshing, and then something the opposite of that. So what I came up with is matcha, and then spicy. So that's the guiding principle here. So just starting out, what I want to do is 4 buttons for each of those. Two of them square, 2 of them round. And these will be different from the ones that I'm putting onto the recipe cards or fridge magnets, etc. They'll be their own isolated little collection, and that way, because this is essentially an untested market for me with the February 28th show, and also just appealing to a different type of audience altogether, I have to make it kind of friendly for a different audience compared to the VTubers, to the general anime fans. So that's what this whole experiment is, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens for this year. And as I'm doing these streams over the year, I'll definitely be reporting in about how that works out, what people say, what gets sold, what doesn't, how I managing the turnover, because I think I mentioned this, but with my con and my con inventory, what I'm planning to do is a 60% turnover. So that means if I have a catalog of 200 items, $120 of that, or $120 of that will have change in some capacity. And so it means like there'll be stuff that gets taken off because it doesn't sell well or it doesn't align with what I want to do. There'll be new stuff added, and there'll be things that have changed throughout the course of a year. And I think this is going to be a good number to aim for, because I do a lot of Midwest shows and I don't want to keep trying to sell the same thing to the same customers. And that's always been the disappointment for me when I go to artist alleys myself, is I'll see great artists that I love them, have a great time talking to them, but they just don't put out too much, so it's hard to consistently have something to buy from them. And so it's a challenge sometimes. So with that said, let's work on some of those items. So let's start with just a basic round. Set myself a template here. So what I'm thinking, matcha. Might be nice to have a donut. So just fill up this space nicely with a little bit of a water. And then up the inside here. And I'm thinking kind of a dip donut deal. And let's see what else could be good for down here. It could just be straight up texture. Could be like a cake donut. I kind of like that idea. So right now I don't have anything pulled up as far as references is concerned. That might come back to bite me later, but it is gonna be a little bit of a short session, I think. A little bit longer than last time because I'm not feeling as tired, but it'll be an incomplete session, I guess. There will be plenty to work on, of course. But I hope this has been enjoyable so far for you guys. What I'm doing here is more or less sketching out the idea, what I want to do, and then later, probably off stream, I'll go back into this, take a look at the idea again with fresh eyes and proper reference material. To see was a good idea, was not how to get the right textures that I have in mind for it. Yeah, when it comes to donuts, cake has to be one of my favorites. I love a good old fashioned, also love chocolate ones as well. Kind of curious for you guys in the chat and in the VOD, what is your favorite like bakery item? Give it a little bit of color just to better communicate the idea. Gonna be a lower opacity layer. Kind of wondering if I should make it like a white dip, like a white chocolate dip, or if I should do a matcha dip with a different base. Might be a little bit more interesting if it was a matcha dip. Then maybe this could be a little bit more of a minty chocolate. Try to find the right color for this. Always a challenge. Could just do straight up chocolate. Yeah, I kind of like that. Just a little bit of bitter and sweet. Some white sprinkles in there. And because it's art, we're not exactly constrained by reality. Although I do like to ground myself. What I'm thinking is maybe some kind of cream here. and start lowering the sketch layer a bit. Just give it a little bit of something for the inner layer here. And then throw a little bit of mint. Spice it up a little bit. Give it some silhouette breaking as well, which is kind of important to me. I love a good silhouette break. Because you ever sometime look at designs and just wonder, what exactly is that supposed to be? Just because the silhouette itself basically tells you nothing about the design itself. Like, the especially big issue for VTubers with like long hair that is let down is it just kind of smothers the overall silhouette, so you can't really tell what the outfit is supposed to be. That's always a challenge for what I like to participate in with the outfit guesses. They'll put a silhouette out and see what people think it looks like. And that's also one of my personal vendettas against the big jacket and big pants style, because yeah, you can tell a lot from when it's rendered, but when it comes to actually seeing it in the just pure black, you can't really tell anything. So I think that's a pretty good start there, enough to go off of. Group of sky. So it's easy to hide later. I had another one. Let's see here. Okay, let's do a chocolate bar. Just a square design. We got kind of rounded corners with the buttons, so that's to be expected. I'm thinking it would be something as simple as this. Got this part exposed, and then just for layering, there's a white mark out of it as well. And let's see, going off of my memory, I think a lot of chocolate bars are either split into 2 or 3 for the columns. So for the sake of making it simple, I'm gonna make it 3. Yeah, I'm gonna probably torture somebody with this right here. You ever see those folks that just get absolutely riled up because somebody's biting the chocolate bar instead of breaking it off piece by piece? Oh, it's interesting. So something like this. Then we can have a little bit of fun with what goes on here. There's some kind of um, packaging element. And that's another interesting thing to think about for artists is if you have opportunities like this is a great way to slip in your signature without it being weird. Um, so it could be just like a name across here. It could be um, just a design that you do, maybe a original character. Um, like for example, there's this guy who's a concept illustrator on Twitter. He goes by Reynold Tuna, and his most well-known signature is this little tuna dude that he slips into pretty much every illustration that he has. Um, in some capacity. So just a little mascot character like this, a great thing to do. Um, yeah, this could be what I do here. Kind of like a matcha turtle flavor. Boom, boom, boom. Just drawing human being right here. A little original character of mine, just a simple little turtle dude. I'm gonna rotate this. So I think I might actually clean this up. The turtle. And just a little beanie shape, I guess, or the doors. I don't know. It's something I have to think about later. but it's a just a interesting way to bring some character to this button. But a little bit of color. I have a feeling that the chocolate itself is gonna be a little bit waxier, lighter color in general. Some darker crevices. So I think that's pretty good. Let's do something a little bit spicy. There was this restaurant in my hometown. It was pretty good overall, but it kind of suffered because the area that I was in was how do I say, it was kind of one of those up and coming type of locations, and the city was really interested in driving development, and unfortunately for that, it meant that the rents were going up quite a bit on the properties around there. But they were a pizza company, and my favorite pizza from them was, let's see, it was called a Van Helsing. I'm not entirely sure why they called it the Van Helsing. Because I mean, you would imagine vampires and all with Van Helsing, but there wasn't like a whole lot of garlicky elements to it. But what it did have was goat cheese, the this really good goat cheese, and peppers. Those not quite jalapeno, but not quite bell peppers either. Getting the goat cheese on here. The challenge with these buttons is to not overload them with details, because I'm working on a 3000 by 4200 canvas. But the buttons themselves are a little bit less than well, 2.5 to 2.25 inch, and so at 300 dpi, that's a little bit closer to 600 to 800 pixels of actual resolution. So you can't go to detail with them. Otherwise, you'll just smash all of the details out of them when you try to print them. But yeah, goat cheese, pepperdew peppers. They had a nice drizzle of honey over it. And there was some hot sauce as well. And say Italian sausage. And then this was just a personal weakness of mine, but they also had slivered pickled red onions on it. Ooh boy, I love pickled red onions so much, you wouldn't believe it. But yeah, that's the idea that I had here for another round button, but on the spicy side of pizza. I will have to go back and try to figure out what the color profile of this was. It's been, I want to say, probably around 7 years since they moved out. So there might still be some photos. It was called a Van Helsing. So I think that's where I'm gonna leave it for tonight. Thank you for coming by, and I'll see you guys next time.